All right, looks like we are live. Well, live event will be in 17 seconds. Oh, I thought we were live. There we are. Well, looks like we are live. I am with my friend Alex.
Hello, everybody.
The others had previous engagements, and hopefully we'll return in the next episode of favorite albums. So this time, it'll be a little bit of a shorter episode, but we'll have a lot of cool choices for you albums. Of course, Alex is going to have some interesting ones, and mine
the case for me.
Mine this time is going to kind of be metal centric, because at this time of this era, 1988, I was just 100% into metal, and but there's a few of the stuff that are kind of have some progressive tendencies to it, if not. Anyways, I'm gonna start off, and I got this band. It's called Death Angel. And this is a band out of the San Francisco Bay Area. And at the time that they recorded their first album, the youngest one was 14 years old, and the singer was 17 years old. So these were young guys, but they were as heavy, or maybe even heavier than some of bands like Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer. They had a small hit called "Bored" on Headbangers Ball, and they used to play all the time, and that's how I got into it. There's a little bit of like I was saying, there's some progressiveness, but not like prog metal. I wouldn't really. It's just some time changes going on, and it was really good if you like the heavy stuff. All right, Alex.
Okay, my first choice here is going to be a Japanese band called Baiko Ryan. These guys did a lot of live albums, and their live stuff was really good. They're very heavy in the Red era King Crimson style. For a while, it was a trio. For a short time, it was a duo. In this case, it's a trio, and this is called Live Volume 2. And I really like their stuff. If you like that sort of harder edged Red era King Crimson sound, that's what they had. Really fun album.
Sounds good.
And as always, live is always fun to see live albums because they always improvise. Almost every band I listen to that does live, including ELP, they do some sort of little changes here and there that make it interesting.
Right. I mean, I don't. One thing I don't like about some live albums is that they almost like note for note.
Right, and in the case of these guys, they don't do that.
That's cool.
And a lot of these bands that I listen to, especially if they're sort of a little more harder edged, or if they only like compose certain parts of the piece, then they leave parts open for improvisation, and that always makes it more interesting.
Oh yeah. I I like that because it's like why go to a concert if they're gonna do it note for note?
Exactly. And that
I want
was that was one of the difficulties with sometimes seeing some live bands. That's why whenever I go out to see live now, I prefer that they do original material than covers.
oh yeah,
Although covers can be interesting again.
yeah, that's true. That could be.
So, all right.
All right. My next one, probably one of the earliest '80s prog metal bands, Fate's Warning, and No Exit. This is when they got the brand new singer, and it's got an epic 20-minute song on there, and I think it's the first time any of those metal bands actually did epics, and they had quite a few of their songs on here that were on MTV again, Headbangers Ball, of course, and sometimes in different kinds of rotations late at night. This is where I got into them because of there's a song called Anarchy Divine, and they played that one all the time, and I sought out this album, and it's like, for me, Fate's Warning from this point forward was flawless. The previous singer had some really good songs, but there were some parts that I could do without. But this one, and of course, it has the trademark operatic vocalist. I think he did it better than most of them. He's currently has a solo album out. What I heard, Fate's Warning is not recording new material anymore. So, that's sad, but I guess go out while you're on top. Don't keep on, beating a dead horse on that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind people that if they're keep on playing in their 70s, that's fine as long as they can bring something fresh to it. It's great. But
Right.
if all they're doing is standing around playing their instruments, it's like, I don't know. But there's some really good musicians that are in there that are very vibrant even in their 60s.
Yeah. Well, even as musicians age, they still have ideas and new things.
Yeah.
That's the thing about creative people is they always bring something new, no matter what their age is.
All right, what's your next one?
So, I'm a big Magma fan. So there's all kinds of Magma offshoots called Zool. There's a whole style called Zool. So my next selection is going to be a band called Musique Noise, and the album is called Fulmines Regularis. And it's got some really good fusion Zool that's heavily influenced by Magma. There's some vocals, not a lot, but there's that definite Zool vibe going on, that Magma vibe, and it's a sound that was really great. And in 1988, there wasn't a lot of it. A lot of the Zool sound didn't really start to appear until the 90s, I think, is when, and there was a lot of reissues. I'll give you that. So this is obviously was not and is not well known, but I quite like what I heard. It was released on CD. It's almost impossible to find. You can find it on Apple Music, amazingly enough.
That's kind of cool, find it somewhere, right? It's like,
and the band is still together. They did a release just a couple of years ago, another album. So,
Yeah.
And they still have fresh ideas, still have new things coming out. So, okay, Ron, go ahead to your next.
All right. Keeping in the metal world, Iron Maiden, Seventh Son of the Seventh Son.
Mhm.
This had a lot of hits on it and a lot of great songs. After the previous album, Somewhere in Time, they kind of adopted using guitar synths, and their sound became a little more polished. Um, that's my only downside about it is I mean, metal really shouldn't be polished. It's, should have,
A
some
raw edge. Yeah.
raw power to it, but I mean, um, the one song from here, Can I Play with Madness? That was a video that was playing all over the place. They do tend to like to write a mixture of short songs and some long songs. And they do have a little bit of time changes, and that comes from Steve Harris, the bass player. He's heavily into prog. Big, I think it's a big Jethro Tull fan.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say Gentle Giant, but I'm not 100% sure. But he likes that 70s prog stuff, and you can kind of hear very faint here and there stuff that kind of leans towards that. Plus, of course, you got good old Eddie that he's lost his head. All right.
Okay, so next up for me is pretty much the straight up jazz, a band called I just had the Lounge Lizards. I'm sure you've probably heard of them.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
And they did this release, and it was called Voice of Chunk, and it's got some really great horn charts in it. They have sort of a larger band in this case, but they're really quite good. I thought it was great. This was something I didn't discover till the 90s, but the release is 1988. And I didn't realize, because I heard about Lounge Lizards, I always avoided them, but then I started listening and realized they're actually quite good. And it's pretty much a straight up jazz.
That's cool.
It's got some very nice melodic hooks in it and some very nice features that I like. I usually don't like collective brass, but they do a great job with this. And this particular album is quite good, in my opinion.
Cool. Yeah, I think I heard. Yeah, I have heard of them. I always kind of thought that they were like a new age group.
No, they really weren't. They really were more jazzers than they were new age. Now, obviously, like all bands, they go through transitions and different styles. But this style is pretty much the straight up jazz with a little bit of rock sensibility to it. So I really wouldn't call it fusion, but I thought it was quite good.
All right. My next choice was kind of a big one. Queensryche, Operation Mindcrime.
Mm-hmm.
The really politically charged concept album. And to this day, it's regarded, if not their best, one of their best albums. I bought this the first week that it came out. I was visiting a friend in the South Bay in Southern California, and on the way home, I saw a record store, so I had to stop by and see what they had, and I saw this, and the cover looks kind of cool, and I was like going, well, I know Queensryche. I didn't know they had a new album out, and I picked it up, got home, popped it in my player, and it was like, wow. I mean, it has moments. I really think, and when their original singer was in the band, I really think that they took a lot of nods from Pink Floyd.
From where?
Pink Floyd.
Pink Floyd. Oh, okay.
especially Roger Waters kind of stuff, because how he's politically charged. So they have politically charged uh, lyrics in here. Really, really good band. I saw them live a few years after this came out, and it was really good. I mean, this is one of my favorites from 1988.
Very good. Okay. My selection, you've heard from this band before from me, called Shadowfax.
Yeah.
This was their last album called Songs for a Nuclear Village. Oh, that's actually a little not bright enough. Let me see if I can fix that. Make it a little brighter. But it was the last release that I'm aware of that Shadowfax did. Songs for a Nuclear Village.
I've seen that cover.
It's a great cover. I love the cover. And the music, I think, is really good. Not quite as good as their first release. Their very first release was called Watercourse Way and had really fantastic Mahavishnu-esque sound. They'd clearly been listening to Mahavishnu. This sound is a little bit more mellower, but I really like it. I still think it has a great vibe to it. G.E. Stinson, who's the guitar player, seems to have a lot of influence here. The leader of the band passed away just after the release of this album, I think. So they disbanded the band. But this was, I think, still a worthwhile release and is worth checking out.
Yeah, when I was in the record store, I saw that quite a few times.
The record label pushed Shadowfax a lot. And I remember seeing them here in Ravinia in around 1988, I guess it was. And they actually got quite a few people to come out to the show. So they had some level of success. Okay. Go ahead, Ron.
Now, my next one is more on the, I want to say, technical metal, a little progressive rock. Voivod, Dimension Hatos.
What's the name of the band?
Voivod.
Voivod, okay.
Voivod. These guys are French Canadian. The first few albums had a more punk metal edge to it. But this one, they decided to kind of get a little more technical and more cosmic in a way. The character Voivod is some sort of creature from another world.
Oh yeah, I like this band Voivod. I like them a lot. I think
it's the one song. Let's see, what is it? Tribal Convictions, where it starts off with like that, almost like a tribal drum sounds. It's just that they have such an urgency to their music. It's like they kept going forward, and it's like and I liked how it was like it would change. I mean, whether the guitar would change its directions or the drums, it was just one of my favorite ones that was unusual. And at the time, I had no clue about anything technical or progressive. I just liked that it was different.
Yeah, and another band that's not exactly the same, but kind of in that vein is Spastic Inc., and I really like them.
Yeah, they split the album into two, a prologue and an epilogue. And this particular one release has a lot of live stuff and some demos. It's kind of neat to see when bands behind the scenes. You get to hear songs being created. I think it gives you a better appreciation for the music in general.
Yeah.
All right. Back to you.
Okay, my last choice is going to be a guy named Mark Isham, who He's a trumpet player, and he used to play with David Sylvian on David Sylvian tours. But he did this release in 1988 called Castalia, and you probably saw it around the stores.
Yeah, that looks very familiar.
And it's kind of atmospheric, gets into the kind of the funky fusion portions. He did a lot of soundtrack music, so there's a lot of atmospherics. It's what I would call kind of an ECM sound, which is, I wouldn't call it laid back, but there's a nice spacing between the notes, and there's nice times of just kind of quiet, which is, I guess is a little unusual for me. Usually I'm listening to very crazy music. But I really like this Mark Isham, and a lot of the work that he did at that time in the 80s to 90s was something I always look forward to listening to.
That's cool. That's really cool. I like it.
Yeah, and he did Cloud About Mercury. There was a Cloud About Mercury tour that went around with Mick Karn and Bill Bruford and a bunch of guys. And it was right around that time, towards the late 80s, early 90s. And it was also, I missed it. I wished I'd seen it, but it was, the videos I've seen on YouTube are quite good.
We got someone out there in the audience that wants to say hi, or wants us to say hi to. It's Kevin.
Hey, Kev.
Like I said at the beginning, this is going to be a short episode. But I think we got a lot of good picks. I had on standby some other ones just in case, but kind of how do you say pulling an Ian.
Yeah.
But I'll just run them off. I won't talk too much about them. Yeah, Anthrax.
Anthrax. Yeah. Those guys have a great sense of humor.
Oh yeah. That's what I think drew me towards them. Is like they weren't taking themselves too seriously.
Right.
And, next one I have is this British band called It Bites, and it's called Once Around the World. Now I have it on a disc, a 4-disc set here of their first 3 albums plus their 4th album. It's called It Bites.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of like progressive pop.
I've heard of them. I've certainly heard of them.
Of course, I'm sure you heard of these guys.
Oh yeah, Megadeth, of course.
So far, so good, so what? And then I got this one, Metallica, Justice for All. Now, this one was their most progressive and their worst mixed album, because there's no one has a definitive story as to why it's mixed this way, but for some reason they're saying that the drummer and the guitar player, one of the guitar players, went in and boosted up their guitar and their drums. And the bass it's not there. And you can go onto YouTube and you can find people that actually go in there and they add what the bass is supposed to sound like into it, and it sounds like a totally different album. And it's like that's my only thing I didn't like about it. When I first bought that and I played it I had it on cassette, and whenever I drove around my dad's van to do deliveries, I had that in there, and all it did is the speakers sounded like they were blown out.
Yeah.
The louder you went, the more it sounded was blown out.
Yeah, it's it actually distorts the basses when it comes down to.
Yeah. And then next one I got here is Slayer, South of Heaven. These guys are brutal, And then the last one I got is Testament, New World Order. These guys are out of the Bay Area.
Mm-hmm.
They're very similar sounding to Metallica, but what is his name? Alex Skolnick.
Yeah, Alex Skolnick. Yeah.
He's in that band, and I know Alex does a lot of fusion stuff
Yeah.
or jazz stuff, on the side. So, but you do hear that in the songs. It's not like the typical metal band because of him being involved in it. So.
Yeah, I saw him with Pact about 4 or 5 months ago.
Oh, cool.
He was touring around with Percy Jones.
Yeah, I remember that he was signed to that label Magna Carta.
Magna Carta, right?
I mean, I don't know if that label is still around or not. I mean, they had some good
I don't know.
stuff. They have some good stuff in it, but I think the label wasn't managed properly.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard a lot of rumors, it had to do with very unhappy fans, but.
All right.
So
It's not that I'm afraid for me in 1988, there wasn't a lot of releases that really interested me. There's a lot of new age stuff that I was listening to at the time that really wasn't all that great.
right.
Some of it was really good. Michael Manring didn't release anything in '88. I would have mentioned it, but I think he released something prior and later. Michael Manring did this album Funk in the '90s. That's just unbelievable, but that's for a different time.
Right. So the next one is going to be on September 2nd. We're going to be talking about albums that came out in 1993. I think we got a little bit more choices.
Right. Hopefully, get some more folks too.
Yeah, and the 90s seemed to be more kind of like a resurgence of progressive rock in general. The different subgenres.
Well, I think there was also a nice resurgence in Zool fusion, the electronic side. There was a lot of interest in that. Ian Boddy from England started doing a lot of releases in the 90s. And then there were some other folks around him in England that were working on it too. And there seemed to be just a general interest in more improvised music as well. So I think that people had been listening to what Miles Davis was doing in the 70s and kind of updated that and brought some of that to the forefront.
Cool. So, well, thank you for taking the time out. I think we had a blast.
Thanks.
Got some albums out there for people that, if anything sounded interesting, mine tend to be a little more, I guess, well known. Especially for the metalheads out there. I know that there's quite a few metalheads that listen to progressive rock, so it's all good.
It is. Well, thanks for inviting me, and I look forward to the next one.
All right, I'll talk to you soon then.
All right, take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Just before I leave, I just wanted to let you know what's coming up. On August 19th, I'm going to be talking with a band called Ghost of the Machine. I am going to be taking off the 26th, but then again, coming back on September 2nd, we're doing 1993. On September 9th, I'm going to be talking to a war guitarist named Jason Blake. Then on September 16th, I'm going to be talking with a new band called Red 32. So that's so far what I got coming out, and I'll have more to talk about in the next episode. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed it. And please like, subscribe, you know the business.